Episode 91, Season 14, Serial Number 6, The Talons of Weng-Chiang. One of the most well-regarded episodes, and also one of, if not the, worst aged episode, even in regards to when it first came out.
I guess we should
Why is that so, dear? What happens in it?
Well, I guess maybe some warnings for blatant and not so blatant racism.
Well, we're not going to be... Well, we're not saying...
Well, I know. I'm just saying, like, that's things that we're going to be talking about. It's not like we're not going to talk about. Yeah, we're going to be talking
about... I mean, it's not like we've never talked about racism on the podcast before, but like this is more of a like to put it into perspective. This is the most racist episode of Doctor Who, in my opinion. There are examples of worse racist bits, like for instance, the Savages. If I remember right, it's an episode from the Fourth Doctor era where there are blackface style cavemen, and a companion stays behind at the end to civilize the savages, and teach them how to be civil. But this is the most pervasive in all layers of racism. We're talking straight up racial slurs, not used for shock value, but used in just, well, yes, this is casual speech. Like, of course they would say this. Like, what's wrong with that? Down to blatant normalized racism of both racial microaggressions and just straight up just normalized racist speech that is, referring to people by ethnicity, prejudices based on ethnicity, and also the big one, which is straight up a character in Yellowface.
Yeah.
There's a lot to talk about, especially with regards to like why it's like this, what the response was, and how Doctor Who has done better within itself. It's an episode that people like to look back on because it is there are elements of this that are really good. And I still purport that if all the racist shit was taken out and was replaced with better writing, this would be the quintessential Doctor Who episode. But the racist stuff is in there and you cannot ignore it because it is in nearly every single scene. And nearly every single character is pervasive with it.
Yeah.
It's not challenged, it's not talked down upon, it's not even noticed. Like, it's not even pointed out, like, hey, that's a racial slur, maybe you shouldn't say that. It is just normalized. And it's bad. And we'll talk about it in depth as we get to it. But, for now, what happens in part 1, dear?
I am amazed that the side characters were also not in Yellowface, but we'll get to that.
Why would they be?
Because they just don't
you mean the foot soldiers. It'd be too expensive. Remember? 3 hours in makeup.
I guess.
It'd be way too expensive.
So, there's a bunch of people clapping at a play, and there's some white man dressed as an Asian man with a large Asian puppet. That's just basically a stereotype. And he's complimented about his skills by a guy with a rose in his lapel, and his name will be Rose. And he makes a fucking puppet respond to him like a witty fuck, and then a man comes in asking about his girlfriend/wife Emma, who disappeared. And then white man is brought into a room with the fake Asian man, and he's like, I levitated her, don't worry about it. Then he runs off, and the puppet nods without even being controlled. Ooh. And the TARDIS swoops in, and Leela has like a cute beret on, and she doesn't understand what a boat horn is. And now they're gonna go see a play about the puppet. Anyway, meanwhile, Roseman asks another man if he's got shit happening. He's like, yeah, I've seen it. And then the bowler hat man saw a skull downstairs coming after him, and he was very scared of it. And Rose dude is like, you imagined it, it's fine. And then the man who lost his girlfriend is confronted with the puppet, where he now has a knife. So that's a thing.
Knife.
And then, the Doctor then hears that scream. They go after it. They find some Asian men dragging a body around. And then they do martial arts. And Leela's backed into a corner. Then the the pigs come, the popo, the police come, the bobbies, I don't know, and the fake Asian people take away the body, except one of them trips, and then the doctor chases the others. And Leela's confused at what police are, and because she tried to strangle her attacker, they now need to take her to the police to talk to her, because that's not what ladies do. Back on stage, there's a person hypnotized, jokes about opium, and how she's, like, levitated. And the puppet's like, "You're fooling me." And he's like, "No, here's a sword, here's no wires, here's a levitating higher, woo." But then Red Rose, while watching, notices that the puppet is bleeding. And he's like, "That's weird. Where did all that blood come from?" And the doctor and Leela are like, "We're travelers, and we learned that the ladies have been going missing here." And the doctor's like, "We literally just prevented a murder. Come on." And he's like, "Well, I don't believe you." Leela just really wants to kill him. Instead, the doctor walks up and starts to speak Mandarin, and he was like, "Huh." And it's really weird for him. And then we find a dead body in the river as well, and the old lady just won't fucking shut up about it. But then the fake Asian man walks up to get his assistant, and Leah's like, "I caught this dude." And the doctor's like, "I've seen you before," and they joke about it. However, the doctor hasn't been to China for like 400 years. He secretly opens his ring when the police aren't looking, and the guy takes the thing from it, and it's poison. And he also has a black scorpion tattoo from a criminal organization known as the Black Scorpion something. And the doctor is gonna help everyone figure this out. Rose and Bowler Hat talk about how it's Jack the Ripper probably, and then the Rose just walks into fake Asian man's room, and he looks at the doll, and he does actually find blood on the puppet, and he's like, "Oh, I thought it was just a little person dressed up." And, you know, the Bowler's like, "Sure, bro. He didn't say, it's fine." And then the doctor and Leela head into the mortuary to go look at a dead body. And Leela thinks that it's the body she saw. And then they found some rat hair on the body, but it's really long, so that's weird. Also, apparently, the god that they keep talking about is one of abundance that makes things grow. So the doctor leaves, and he's followed by another Asian man who tries to kill him, but then he dies because Leela fucking killed him, and the doctor's like, "You shouldn't kill!" But she did save me, so whatever. And then let's go down in the sewers. There's some blood here. There's also rats. There's also a really big rat. And then, yeah.
The big rat that makes all of the rules.
Mm-hmm.
All of them.
I'm realizing that I didn't put proper spaces between this, so just stop me if I start rambling. It's one of those days.
Stop.
Oh, fuck. Fuck you.
So, the entire through-line joke of this serial is that the Doctor is wearing a Sherlock Holmes outfit, and that's the entire kind of production in-joke was that it's Robert Holmes, the script editor, meets Sherlock Holmes, because they wanted to do a Sherlock Holmes-style story. We'll dip our toes lightly into what the fuck is going on here. Lee Sin Chang is reminiscent of Fu Manchu, which is one of the big criticisms of people when talking about the racial politics of this episode. Fu Manchu being a horrifically racist Chinese villain stereotype from a group of novels from a while ago. And it's like, whoa, well, he's just reminiscent of him. It's not like, you know, they said to make him the villain. No, that was Philip Hinchcliffe's direct ask to Robert Holmes. Philip Hinchcliffe cited Fu Manchu to Robert Holmes as an item to use for inspiration when writing the episode. The decision to use it and subsequent impact on the story as a result is a source of massive criticism. Most of the controversy in the years immediately following its creation was actually in the US and Canada, where racial stereotyping and use of yellowface, for those that are unfamiliar with the term, practice where yellow makeup and prosthetics are applied to make an individual appear Asian, had already fallen into disfavor many years earlier. And it's been pointed out that Fu Manchu had been a depiction of Chinese people had been campaigning and protesting against since like the 1920s for like 50 years at that point. So it was way outdated by the 70s. And do you know how fucked up. How much you must have fucked up for the US and Canada to turn around and say, whoa, that's a bit too racist. Like...
Yeah, when the really racist country says you're being racist, it's kind of bad.
Yeah. Like, the Canadian syndication run on TV Ontario in 1980 dropped the story and did not air it due to complaints from the local Chinese community. In their complaint, they described Talon as dangerous, offensive, racist stereotyping to associate the Chinese with everything fearful and despicable. Specifically... Dr. Joseph Wong also highlighted the Fu Manchu element as one of the biggest issues. The protest partly came as a result of TV Ontario showing the story to focus a group of Chinese locals who took strong offense to it. Supposedly, the story was not shown on Los Angeles TV in 1985 for similar reasons, but there's no source to confirm this, so I'm not entirely certain. It's not just the main character being in Yellowface, it's also every Chinese character in this is a stereotype or enforces Chinese racial stereotypes in that they're either local laborers or they are gang members and they all are involved in opium smoking. Which... Again, very odd considering this is one of the only times in Doctor Who history where A, there is drugs on screen, B, there is a, quote, Lady of the Night on the screen, and, like, this episode has a lot of drugs, sex, and violence for Doctor Who, especially around this time. But yes, it's not, like, whenever anyone's like, oh, well, it's just the main character being in Yellowface, like, no, it is everything. Everything is wrong with this episode. There's racial slurs and everything. We'll get at it again. But yeah, that's... They essentially were doing, like, Sherlock Holmes and doing, Fu Manchu, a whole heap of other things, but it's mainly that's what they wanted to try and write. And, I mean, unfortunately they did. But what happened in part 2, dear?
Well... They are going out of the sewer now because there was some rats in there. That's not good. Bowler and Rose...
Sewer later.
I hardly know her. Bowler and Rose are under the stage looking for that floating skull that he talked about, and they're just like, you're an idiot. And then Doctor... And they also find... I didn't write this down. They also find a handkerchief with some initials on it, and they pocket it. The Doctor and Leela go back to the police, learn about the other dead body, just kind of leave. Bowler Hat goes home for the night. Rose finds fake Asian man is still here, so they go up to their dressing room. And Rose mentions, of course, getting 2% more income or whatever, and the fake Asian man's eyes flash white, and he hypnotizes Rose so that he forgets about the cab driver that came by and was worried about his wife. Meanwhile, fake Asian man... Pham is confronted by the Lord, who is also ill, and he is a gimp. So there's that.
Jesus. Jesus, the gimp.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying Jesus to what I wrote. I was like, it's true.
No, I'm saying he's Jesus. He's his Lord.
Yeah, he's also a gimp. They're worried about being discovered, apparently, and the gimp gave him magic and mental abilities, and they described the Doctor because they couldn't read his mind, so he was worried about it. Racist. Rose mentions to the Doctor that the mortuary, that the attacker was small, and the Doctor lies about Leela being from a place. Another woman was found dead, by the way, and she had gone to the theater, supposedly. More jokes about Leela being an idiot and a savage. And, well, she doesn't really know stuff. Also racism. Also, apparently, the professor grew up in China and makes more fucking racist remarks. And then the Doctor just gets out of the cab and goes to the theater on his own while they go somewhere else. Greeted by Bowler, Rose. Doctor does a scarf trick on Rose and some other shit, then hypnotizes him and makes him remember things and asks about that cab driver. He realizes that the cellar thing he found has EB on it, and it was one of the missing ladies. Oh, racist fake Asian man and his leader are looking for the thing, and they talk about how they'll bring 2 more girls in, and how they're going to distill her life to help him heal. And then they find a mounting spider. I don't really understand it. And then Leela, nearby, in a totally different place, the professor's house is out for food, and she just sit and meet off the boat. Haha, more jokes. And then the magic circle the leader has glows, so they stop and get out of the cabin. They're like, it's in that house. We really need to get the time cabinet. By the way, the doctor sees that skull ghost thing downstairs while Rose faints. By the way, the fake Asian man walked up to the house Leela is in, so they grab a gun. While investigating, the doctor then has someone throw a fake horse head at him, and there's like a chase scene with the Gimp, but then he sucks and falls on a pirate sail that rips. Rose, however, is wandering around and gets knocked out. Actually, he's fine, and the doctor too. Anyway, Leela goes to see what the professor's up to because she hasn't heard from him, and then he's like, and then she's like, are you okay? And she gets assaulted by the puppet.
Poor Leela.
Yeah.
You ever think Leela's dead?
Maybe. Probably.
So, in episode 1, the doctor, when the doctor talks to the, detained man and starts speaking Chinese at him, you asked me, oh, is that actual, like, real Mandarin? Nope. It's gibberish.
Of course it is.
It's mangled nonsense. Like, he says, like, ni hao, and then he just, like, it's just nonsense. Which I find ridiculous and dumb. Because, like, a few years earlier in The Mind of Evil, I believe it was called, a third Doctor story, we talked about it at the time, and I'm pretty sure I mentioned this episode at the time. We have a character who is Chinese, and then another character who I believe is Chinese as well. And there is a scene of the Doctor speaking, I believe, Cantonese to him. Yeah. And it is actual, proper Cantonese. It's not just random gibberish. Mm-hmm. Like, they took the time to... But for some reason, like, a few years later, like, 6-7 years later, they just were like, you know what? Fuck it. We don't care about that. Let's just... Racism. And it's frustrating. One of the sort of introspectives on it, from a time in the future, obviously, was done in Doctor Who magazine once, where Marcus Hearn, who himself is half Chinese, was the editor at the time of the magazine, and sort of did a bit of a editorial introduction to the episode, being like, some of the fan controversy was a little bit patronizing, which, both the editors stepped in saying, like, hey, we're half Chinese, so we're not, like, they're not trying to dismiss the feeling of other Chinese people, but, just presenting his own opinion. They pointed out his discomfort with some fans' comments from those who weren't of Chinese descent/heritage, as he felt it inappropriate for them to tell him or Hearn who were, whether or not they should personally be offended by those portrayals. Ware had previously stated a defense of Chang as a character, making the argument that he felt Chang was three-dimensional compared to the most portrayals of Chinese people as villains during the time period, and Chang does at brief moments make comments lightly mocking the prejudices of those around him, which, to be fair, he does, and he kind of is. Personally, I would say that still doesn't excuse the fact that he's, played by a white man dolled up in makeup with a stereotypical accent. Like, there are specific moments in it where he, for instance, he's joking about someone running off the stage, and he, essentially uses a racial slur against himself, but as a joke to get a laugh out of the audience to take control of it, which is it's actually a kind of good way to talk about that sort of thing and go about it, but it's so few and far between, and also still a white man. Also, it's the only episode from the classic series that actually has a content warning on BritBox, which is a streaming service. They say it's a trigger warning, but it's not a trigger warning. It's more of a content warning. Saying contains stereotypes that some may find offensive to signpost the nature of the story's content. I would say it's a little bit more than that, but also, oh well. At least there's something there. There's quite a lot. There's so many different racial slurs and such that I didn't even know existed until looking into specifically the racial connotations of this episode. I'm not going to repeat them because I don't want to. But there's a lot, and a lot of them are very creative, and you just sort of think, why would you write this in your script? Why would you write so many in your script?
Yeah.
But it's kind of disgusting. But in a lighter note, a pile of straw actually, in one of the street scenes, I forget which episode it is, you might have noticed like a large pile of straw just sort of sitting on the road, like a massive amount. You may be asking yourself, why is that there? The answer is to cover up a modern day car, because they couldn't move it, so they just wanted to cover it up with something.
Uh-huh.
So that's why there's a massive bale of hay there. But anyway, what happens in the next part?
Well, the puppet has a knife, but so does Leela, and the knife that Leela has doesn't stop him. So, anyway, fake Asian man steals professor's gun, leaves, finds the doctor waking up. So, we need to take the shot, Kermit. But Leela jumps out the window, alerting the doctor that they both are being attacked, basically, so then they get away. Face Asian man gets into a carriage and runs the fuck off. Leela jumps onto the back of it for some reason. The professor's okay, so they talk about his Chinese puzzle box that he owns, and the doctor realizes what's going on, but of course we don't get to tell the audience. Meanwhile, Leela watches fake Asian man go down under the bricks in the theater. The house, by the way, was marked, so the assassins will go after it tomorrow. Also, Gimp takes a fucking spine and feeds it to a big ol' rat. The doctor knows what the girls were going to be used for, so he draws a map on a tablecloth, which gets washed later. Meanwhile, the doctor is outside and wonders if they have a fucking elephant gun. Fake Asian man talks to a white lady who then uses some slurs but gets hypnotized and taken away. He then leaves her in his room to go get another lady, probably Leela. No, but she runs up behind him when he's left to go take and deal with the hypnotized lady. He steals a random cleaning lady, and Leela, while this is happening, puts the lady upstairs in a closet and disguises herself as the hypnotized lady. Doctor and Professor talk about guns for a bit. Then they wind up at their place. Meanwhile, Leela is told to do whatever the Gimp says, which is kind of a weird turnaround. So in the distilling chamber for ladies, do they go? Leela, by the way, is here to strangle that Gimp while this distilling happens, but then she stops the distilling and finds that the girl's already dead. So Leela runs off, but is shot at before she escapes and runs into the rat hole. By the way, some people are bringing laundry, air quotes, to the professor's house and take away the dirty laundry. So, you know. Also, hypnotized lady wakes up in the theater and doesn't know what's going on. The lady talks about how she was coerced. And then she runs off and they're like, women. And Rose tells Bowler he's watching at all times, but then we see that fake Asian man is watching them, and then the big rat is now chasing people. And the Gimp now lets the fake Asian man go because he sucks at his job, but then he has some lady juice, which makes him feel better. By the way, Leela's being attacked by the rat, and the doctor's aiming his gun. I believe... Is that where it is? I don't... Is it not? Is it?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Well, it's... The doctor...
There's like a break, but
yes,
it's in the middle of a page, so I didn't see it. So yeah, it's the end of an episode. There you go.
Leela flees from the rat, the doctor gets about to fire, and then Leela races into view and the rat comes in.
Mm-hmm. Anyway. Leela's dead.
Leela's dead, again. God, she just keeps dying, huh? So Christopher Benjamin and Trevor Baxter, who played Jago and Lightfoot, respectively, recalled having a case of the giggles after both of them climbed inside the dumbwaiter for a scene. Aware that the door was shortly due to open from when the next scene would begin, they tried very hard to stifle the laughter and were able to bring it under control before the camera continued filming. Baxter claimed that he managed to stifle the laughter by imagining his mother being run over by 8 steamrollers.
Wow!
That's how you stop yourself from laughing, apparently.
Apparently.
It makes me laugh. So during the scenes where Louise Jameson, as Leela, is running through the sewer in her white outfit, she did not have a happy time filming those. Number one, she was suffering from glandular fever at the time. So not only did she have to contend with thrashing about in the water, but she also discovered that, number two, the undergarments which made up her costume partly became transparent when damp. So you can actually see in the scene, you can kind of see through her clothes a little bit when she's going through the water, which, you know, isn't that fun when you're going through. I mean, I wouldn't want it. But what happened in the next part, dear? We'll give it a bit of a reprieve. I'm not going to talk about racism this time.
Oh, ooh, they are.
Oh,
the rat is shot, but if she's injured at all, it's a literal sewer. She's dead. But she's not. It's fine. Leela is like, I know who did it. I can show you, but actually, let's just leave because rats. Fake Asian man's like, hee hee, with Rose, and then they banter before he goes back to his room. Leela gets some new clothes, and she leaves to change. Apparently, the time cabinet can only be opened by something with the right molecular structure. Rose and Bowler are talking about shit, and fake Asian man overhears the doctors helping him stealth around. So he goes to get himself a fucking gun. And the gimp downstairs is visited by fake Asian man, and he's informed about the doctor. Bowler Hat doesn't really want to go into the cellar. It's very scary there. While Rose sneaks up and tells the doctor hello, and it's the fourth Deirdre, so we know how this turns out. The professor at home with his locked doors, he's like, hi, I'm bored. What's out the window? It's the police. Whoop, whoop. Now we have a musical number about riding a bicycle, and then Bowler Hat gets attacked by a gimp downstairs. Also, now it's fake Asian man's turn. Please take a card, doctor, and then do all these things I'm telling to you, and then I'm gonna shoot the cards. And wowie, I shot it, and you didn't get hurt. So come down here to the stage. Ha. By the way,
come
Professor,
down.
The professor's puppet was in the laundry basket. Or the puppet is at the professor's house, in his laundry basket. And the assassins outside killed the cop, which, yay, but also, oh. And then now the doctor goes into the cabinet of death, which is just like, okay, and then he just leaves. So then he puts his assistant in the cabinet of death and does the trick. But the assistant is met by the gimp downstairs, and he goes, ah! And then the doctor's now handing the swords, and we open the cabinet, and we find dead Bowler Hat fall out instead. He died of fright, apparently, and fake Asian man runs downstairs to talk to the gimp. Doctor goes to talk to Fam, and he's just, like, in a stupor, honestly. Rose goes down, and it lets Fam leave into the rat hole to escape and die, because he wants to go, quote-unquote, meet his ancestors. They find the clothing of the missing girls, and now they know for sure it was the gimp. Rats were just an experiment. He was just having fun. So he's leaving to go start up somewhere else. Also, by the way, Gimp is laughing as he drives away with the puppet with the weird box. They got the box. Yeah.
They got the box.
They got the box.
And then they laugh and they're like,
Yep.
So, another fun fact about the racist makeup. John Bennett, who played Chang, was told not to blink as his makeup was latex and would wrinkle easily. They decided to then make that just part of his character later on. So much effort goes in to doing Yellowface. Why?
Yeah.
Like, it makes no sense. It even like in an economical sense, it makes no sense. You don't want an actor sitting in makeup for 3.5 hours when you could get someone sitting in there for half an hour. It makes no sense. It's never made any sort of sense to me.
Yeah.
So, weird fact about this: when this episode came out on video in 1988, because of the sort of moral panic about violence and such, and violence in movies and sex on TV, they when it came out in video, shots of the nunchucks and the rice flails were actually removed, and the holes in the runtime were patched up with shots of the Doctor and his assailants suddenly going into slow motion. They just slowed down scenes to do it instead. Although at least there weren't any cartoon effects this time, which, if you may not have noticed last episode, one time when Leela throws her knife to kind of, I guess, to get around some sort of censorship in, I think, New Zealand or Australia to do with violence, they made a cartoon sound effect when Leela's knife
noticed.
hit.
No, I noticed.
Yeah, that's why. To try and get around censorship. I think it worked, but it's also like, why?
Why though?
But yeah, that's what happened with that. So speaking of Louise Jameson and Leela, she initially knew she was only going to be contracted for 3 episodes. The Face of Evil, Robots of Death, and this one. Because again, remember, it had been changed, and this is the end of the season. And end of the season meant Philip Hinchcliffe was leaving, and possibly Robert Holmes as well. Because Philip Hinchcliffe had basically fucked up the process for the next person incoming, Graham Williams, who was coming in to be the next showrunner, essentially, was like, I want to try and keep as many things the same as possible so I don't have so many things to fucking deal with. So he basically went to Louise Jameson and was like, can you stay on for another season? Would you like to stay on for another season? And she just went, okay, I will, only if I don't have to wear these fucking contact lenses anymore. Because she's been wearing contact lenses this entire time to change her eye color from brown to blue. I think it was to contrast with her costume better. So they get rid of it, and they have a fun explanation for it in the next episode. So initially, she wasn't meant to be staying on because Philip Hinchcliffe had kind of promised Tom Baker that Leela would be written out, because Baker was of the opinion that she was too violent for the show, and he would rather have carried on with no companion at all. So Louise Jameson was like, I don't know, I think he doesn't like me very much. So she stayed on, and I'm very glad she did, because the next few episodes that she's in, I very much like, especially the next episode. I very much love that one. And the capitalism one. The capitalism one's great. But yes, a turning point of sorts. But they've got the cabinet. What happens in the next part, dear?
The Doctor goes to the Professor's house to find that people are dead. The box was taken. Apparently, the puppet was made in the Ice Age. It was a toy. Also has a brain of a pig. It also almost causes World War VI. It came back through time. It's a fucking murderer. So now we have a box in this evil lair, but the bag was also important, and it was left behind. Penalty is death. Guide dudes. Guy dies.
Guide dogs?
Yes. Rose dude, by the way, is going to lead towards his basement and tell people about it for money and sex, and I'm sorry that I just kicked my cat in the face. Oh no. Sid, I'm so sorry. This is my own fault. Fuck. So, he wants to go tell the police about what's going on, but then we don't trust the police here. What's in the bag? Also, wouldn't someone plan to come get the bag itself, says the professor. Doctor, by the way, is breaking in somewhere, or breaking out, can't really tell. Also, this is a fucking opium den. Yep. Fake Asian man is here and hanging out. He's not dead, he's just doing opium. He's upset about things that have happened. Also, Pham is dying. They talk to him, give him a hint, ask for a hint. He, touches his shoe, and it doesn't really explain a lot. Gimp summons his friends and asks about the bag. It wasn't there, but they were followed, so it's whatever. And Rose and Professor are brought inside, told that they're gonna suffer. Where's the bag? And he's like, it's at my house. Meanwhile, the Doctor's at the Professor's house, and is told about the bag. By the way, they have the key in that bag, I guess, but they have no idea where anyone is. Leela wants to ambush and is threatening with a knife at this point. Professor and Rose are caged with 2 ladies, by the way. Rose thinks the doctor is going to find him pretty quick. However, the professor finds a dumbwaiter. They squeeze in, go into a dining room, quote-unquote. Escape, maybe not really. They could get captured again. Fucking
Maybe
hell.
not really.
Layla is trying to prepare for battle when the Gimp just drugs her, and she tears off his mask, and he's really just a melty mess, and I'm realizing that that's where the episode ended. I remember that one.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I'm petting my cat as an apology.
To the episode or to you?
I kicked him in the face by accident.
Oh, good.
Wow. Anyway.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Not really. The story kind of has... because of the story's popularity, it has a lot of material based around it. For instance, there is an incredibly good audio adventure that is a sequel/prequel to this one called The Butcher of Brisbane, which stars the Fifth Doctor, Nyssa, Tegan, and Turlo, I believe. It's a good one. I recommend it. Other stories as well, I believe. There's a novel or two, I think, that introduce them. There's also a River Song audio where she meets Henry Jago just before this episode starts. But also, another thing is that this episode... Henry Jago and Professor Lightfoot was so kind of popular, and their characters really stand out, and they really do. And they have such a good relationship with each other that Big Finish ended up doing an entire series for them that lasted 14 seasons until Trevor Baxter's unfortunate death, which is incredibly unfortunate. But I've heard it's good. I've never actually listened to it because it's 14 seasons, and I'm not the biggest fan of the sort of Victorian era that they go for here. But if you're interested in listening to more of it, I highly recommend The Butcher of Brisbane. And dipping your toes at least into the Jago and Lightfoot series. Nice, a little bit lighter compared to the racism we're talking about, isn't it? It's nice to talk about things that aren't racism, isn't it, dear?
Wait, there's a life outside of...
There are things other than racism. Yes, I know, it's odd to hear.
What? No,
so
I live in America. I don't understand this!
Oh, that's... according to Louise Jameson as well, the scene where Leela and the Doctor climbed down into the sewers actually took a shit ton of takes to do. The first attempt went perfectly, but a crowd of spectators were watching, and a little boy shouted, "Go on, Doctor." So they tried several other takes, but none of them were as good as the first, so eventually the director just used the first take and edited out the boy's interruption. Which I find adorable. Also, Weng-Chiang was initially actually going to be the Master.
But
following on from the Deadly Assassin. But Philip Hinchcliffe was like, I don't want to have the Master revealed as a secret villain twice in the same season. There are still clues that point to the original plan, though. The Time Cabinet, could have been a TARDIS. Griel referring to Leela as the first morsel to feed my regeneration, etc., etc. And also the hypnotism as well. So yeah, it could have been, but it's not anymore, thankfully. Also, other influences, obviously we spoke about it before, Fu Manchu, but Sherlock Holmes obviously as well, and Phantom of the Opera.
No. I didn't know the Phantom of the Opera had gimps.
I know, right? Fucking simps, more like.
I'm mad that that's a really good joke. I'm mad that that's a really good joke. God damn
also,
it.
a subtle reference to H.G. Wells' science fiction novel Food of the Gods, with the giant rat being animals grown to enormous size. And also, it's kind of a coincidence that they joke about the Doctor being Sherlock Holmes in this one, considering a few years later, Tom Baker would actually play Sherlock Holmes in an adaptation of The Hound of Baskervilles on BBC TV. So, womp womp. But what happens in the final part, dear?
No, I'm tweeting about the fact that I'm mad that this is in the Doctor Who podcast, that this is the first good simp joke that I've ever fucking heard, and I'm mad about
This definitely isn't going to date. This definitely isn't going to date when we're recording this.
No, it's not at all, because no one is going to look back that far. No one cares. Anyway, tweet at me if you care. The Doctor comes back and says, "Hi, Gimp, how are you?" Gimp says he wants the key that was in the bag. It's not in the bag. He's like, "Give me the key or I'll kill her." He's actually, "Give me the key and I won't." And the Doctor's like, "Actually, release everybody first and leave Leela here." But she actually follows them, so it's pointless. Rose and the Professor are still in the jail cell hanging out. They bond a little bit. They're kind of gay now. Gimp and Puppet are also having a bonding moment before it crawls away into the statue's anus. The Doctor, would it be a cloaca? It's a dragon. Would it be a cloaca or an anus?
Do dragons have cloacas?
That is...
Bad Dragon would say no.
I mean, depends on the bad dragon we're talking about.
Okay, Bad Dragon, do you have a cloaca paraphernalia? Hit us up.
Sponsor me. Sponsor the entire podcast, actually.
Why? I mean, I would love to, because that would be fucking hilarious to say
exactly.
that. But
the Doctor talks to the Gimp
keep going.
about his time being shitty and talks about the puppet while the statues of the eyes of the statue light up. The Gimp is named Magnus, by the way. He was a minister of Australia at one point. I thought it meant he was from Australia. Guess not.
No, he was a minister of justice for...
I know.
To give you a hint of what...
But I thought that implied...
He's a minister of justice for the entire South Asia Pacific region in the future.
Okay, never mind. Anyway, they continue to talk for a while. Puppet oinks a little bit, because, pig brain. He was the first one to time travel, but it's what fucked up his face, and then the dragon's eyes fucking lasered the Doctor. Leela's here, she assaults someone, that's fun. Meanwhile, the key is put into the time cabinet, and he's excited. The Doctor is now awake, and so takes the ladies, puts them up against the wall, takes their beds, and the puppet is still on the dragon and upset he didn't kill the Doctor. Leela is now trying to kill him, but fails, and goes into the juicing box, so we're gonna juice Leela. The Doctor and them are planning stuff, and then are ready to get some linen set on fire, which it explodes? It's fine. And then they all run like heck. Leela is being juiced, Doctor rushes in, saves her. Puppet's attacking them from the dragon, Gimp joins him. He offers to spare their lives if they just leave, but they are like, we're just gonna get shot if we leave, so no. And the puppet's still shooting, destroying things. He can't shoot at two things at once, though, so they distract on one side and run on the other. Leela doesn't know how to fucking gun, so this really isn't working. However, if he activates the box, everyone's gonna die. And the puppet's like, no, I don't want to die. Everyone's gonna die, so I'm gonna kill you. And then he starts shooting at the Gimp man. But the puppet...
Gimp
Listen.
man. There's no need to look down, I said Gimp man.
I can't see your frown. Anyway,
said, Gimp man.
We hear... So let's destroy the key, actually, now that everybody's basically dealt with, right? But actually, no, the puppet's not dealt with. The puppet comes out, fucking, let's grab it, and we throw it on the ground and remove its battery, so it's dead now, I guess. And then we hear the fucking muffin man outside, and they just go get a muffin. Like, that's just a thing. Man? They literally just go get a muffin. Man. Yes, he lives on Drury Lane. I guess they are on Drury Lane.
They got an orange earlier, so.
I mean, yeah. Listen, it's fine. Anyway, they all meet up at the TARDIS and it shoos away.
So, real quick, one of my favorite sayings, jokes, references from Doctor Who of all time is actually in this episode. And it's the Doctor saying that Eureka is Greek for this bath is too hot. Which is a great reference that I didn't get for years. It's a reference to Archimedes discovering the revelation of the Archimedes principle, which, for those that don't know, is the specific gravity of every component is inversely proportional to the volume of water it displaces. basically, if you put something in a bath that's filled with water, the volume of water that spills over the edge will be the same volume of the thing that you dropped in the bath.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And so it's like Archimedes supposedly discovered it while he was in the bath. Which is why he said Eureka, because, meaning, oh my god, I've discovered it. Sort of, like, I've got it. But the doctor's sort of joking, no, it just means this bath is too hot. I love it. It's great. But yes, that's that. That's Talons of Weng-Chiang. We made it. We made it through racism.
Painfully.
We're one step closer to getting out of racism. There's still a little bit of racism here to come.
I'm just waiting for the anti-drug episodes. That's what I'm waiting for.
We still got a while to get to that, dear.
I know,
like 3 seasons.
It makes me sad, okay?
I know. I know you want to do drugs.
I do.
Yeah. You just... So many drugs with you. So many drugs. Would you like to guess the name of the next episode that we're going for, dear?
Do you want me to rate this episode and explain why at all?
I mean, yeah, okay, if you want to. I mean, I already know what it is.
What is it?
It's a 0.
It's a conditional 1.
A conditional 1.
Yes.
Okay. What's the condition?
The condition being is I will consider rewatching it if they animated it and took out a lot of the racist bullshit animation-wise.
What if they animated it and made it more racist, though?
Then I wouldn't fucking want to watch it. But what I'm saying is, like, if they actually went back and animated and went, like, we understand what we did, we'd like to make 2 versions of this episode. One without the fucking racist caricatures that we put on everybody's goddamn face and the main character. And one that, like, you can look back and be like, that was fucked up. I would be okay with that. I would consider going back and watching it. I probably wouldn't watch it, but I would consider it. If they don't make that, I don't ever want to see this again. Ever.
I actually was thinking while we were watching it, I was like, there is such a really good story in here. I wonder if anyone has considered actually trying to remake the episode. Like, not, redoing it completely, but, like, I feel you could, like, very, not easily, but with a lot of planning and care, you could actually, like, use a green screen and a lot of visual effects to cover up and redo this episode, essentially. Like, take out lines, maybe replace them with some other lines, like, cut the episode more to cut out the racist shit, replace it with not racist shit. Essentially replace the actor of Chang with someone who isn't, that.
Yeah.
No, 100%. I was thinking about that, because, like, there's an episode that actually was remade by a group of university students, which we actually are going to watch, but we're not going to watch it yet because it's essentially a prologue episode to the Daleks' Master Plan, which isn't out yet, and possibly never will be out, considering a few weeks ago I just saw the news that, a rumor, that the next animated DVD coming out will be the last because BBC America are pulling their funding, which that would suck, because we're on a roll. We nearly had all of them reanimated. But a group of university students essentially just lovingly recreated that episode, like, made costumes that were accurate as possible, made it look as accurate as possible. It's really great, actually. But I kept thinking, like, if someone tried to, it would be so much harder with this, and it would cost a lot of money, but it's like, I feel like someday someone might do it. And I think that would be great.
Yeah, I legitimately think that there's, like, something there, but you have to literally dig through so much shit to get it, is the issue.
Every time I rewatch it, I forget just how racist this episode is. Like, it's like, we're not joking when it's like nearly every single scene there is some type of racial slur or racial stereotype happening or being said. I
think I may have woken up my elderly neighbor at one point from screaming the word no very loudly. So.
Thank God you weren't screaming a racial slur.
I was very upset. I was just like, no! 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 So, it was fun.
Yeah.
No. Anyway, give me.
But-
what's the title? The next title. What's it?
So, the title of the next episode is The Blank of Fang Rock. One of my favorite episodes.
The Blank of Fang Rock?
Well, there's no the, it's just Blank of Fang Rock. Because, 4-word limit.
I didn't know they had a 4-word limit.
There's not, but there kind of unofficially is. I
I
mean, like, Robots of Death, The Face of Evil, The Talons of Weng-Chiang, if you count Weng-Chiang as one word, The Brain of Morbius, The Hand of Fear, The Deadly
Okay.
Assassin.
let me ask straight up: is it a body part? Because I'm realizing that this is just a thing.
No, it's a genre.
It's a genre. That's weird that you say it's a genre.
Well, I say it's a genre. The word is also a genre, but it's being used here as an adjective.
I know, but like I'm going through genres in my head.
There's one that really fits.
Horror?
Yep.
Okay. It was
Horror
either
of Fang Rock.
it was either horror or fantasy, and I was just like, I don't know.
I hope you like The Lighthouse, starring Willem Dafoe and I don't know why I was about to say Patrick Swayze. It's not Patrick Swayze. Robert Pattinson. The Lighthouse, starring Willem Dafoe and Patrick Swayze.
Yep,
'Cause of
that's
course.
that'd be
Mm-hmm. Mm.
All
Yes,
right.
Horror of Fang Rock. I love it so much for so many reasons. We'll get to it. We'll
We'll
start
get to
off
it.
season 15 with it. We'll have a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you want to mention, dear?
Nope. Fuck racist. Fuck them.
Fuck racist. All my homies
Fuck.
hate racist. If you're
It's
racism,
true.
don't.
If you
Don't.
like racism, you ain't my homie.
If you like
And I hope you die in a
racism,
fucking fire. Anyway, what?
You're a bitch.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah, you're a little bitch boy.
I hope you die. I hope you die a very painful death and all of your family members look back and go, man, if only they weren't racist. Maybe they wouldn't have died that horrible, painful death that has made all of us depressed and sad. Oh. Oh well. And then you're going to be completely forgotten about. It'll be great.
That's it.
That's it.
Okay. Good night, everybody.
Good night.